I've seen happen is the kids, if they're given a project or an activity or a lab, and they're given an app to use with it, they're able to figure out the app and they're able to apply it to the lab even beyond whatever we had initially planned to use it for in class. And so what using the iPad allows them to do is individually and in groups to explore whatever the concept is that we're using in more detail and explain it in different ways, because there are different apps that they can use. And so if one student wants to use an animation app, and one student wants to use a graphing app, and one student wants to use a productivity app, to explain the same concept in their own way, it all works. And so what I really like is that it's not just one-stop teaching, that the kids are able to learn the concept in a lot of different ways, and that's something brand new. I think that having the iPads in the class has made their learning deeper, in that they are critically thinking about the concept more. Once we use the apps, we can apply it to a lot of different concepts. And so instead of having one lab or one project that we do in a certain way, what's really great is that the kids can then, they're motivated to see what else they can do with it or what else they can find out. I think one thing that's very important to do, it might seem obvious, but just to make sure that every student is assigned one iPad. And so it's a very personal, this is their device. And so I have one student, one class assigned an iPad, and another student, another class assigned the same iPad, and that's it. It's their iPad or it's the other student's iPad. And it would be great if it was their iPad through the whole day, because then everything could happen in that iPad. But that's really, really important, is that every student gets their own iPad that they're responsible for. And then something that I've learned is you have to figure out a way that their learning doesn't live on the iPad. And so when we have made books, like online books, we had to find a program to upload it to create flipbooks on the web. And so now the flipbook doesn't live on the iPad. Well, we have a class blog, and so by each student is a contributor to the class blog, and I have it assigned on different weekly schedules to make sure that all the students are involved, and they brainstorm together about their posts, and having that blog as a communication of what we're doing to the world, and talking about what should go in the blog and editing what should go in it. I think that in and of itself is making us have conversations about what's appropriate to put out there and how we want to say it, and also making sure each time that they use the iPad, because it is shared across two classes, they have to log out of their accounts. And so that is something that we talk about, that there is a responsibility that you have to protect yourself. One thing that I have found really great about iPads is that EAL students, even if they are not very forthcoming in class with answers, they don't want to answer in class, if you give them an iPad and they video record each other, like their reflections, all of a sudden I've had these students who have spoken more in video format to the iPad than I have ever heard them speak in class. And that has been really eye-opening. Like, I have students that speak a lot better than I ever knew that they did. And so I think naturally a lot of our EAL students are introverted when speaking in English. But I think that's just because the language is intimidating for them to use. And so that's something that's been really eye-opening for me. Ads let you do is they let you be creative learners. It's a tool for students to be creative, independent learners. I would absolutely ask for iPads again, because the possibilities are endless for how they can be creative in their learning. And we have brought art into science class. We've brought music into math class, like all sorts of things we've done that I didn't see that happening. The fact that we're bringing, art into into math and science, where you don't usually think of it blending in, it blends in very naturally, and it's just kind of a constant exploration. And so I see iPads as being a real creativity learning tool, and allows students' imagination and critical thinking to really bloom. I haven't had really any issues with them, like misusing them. We have all of our iPads. We haven't lost any. We had one scare, but it was at school. So we haven't really, the kids have been really responsible with them. I check them out to them over the weekends. I check them out overnight, and they sign it out, and they know that it's their responsibility to keep up with it. I have not had any of them damaged. When I walk around the class to monitor what they're doing, I haven't had any, no one is on other sites checking Facebook or off emailing somebody else. If anything, they're exploring another app, and all the apps we have on there are educational apps, and so if they're off task, they're actually off task doing something educational. With having the iPad, and because it is so interactive, there are definitely a lot less kids in my room that are finished with an activity and then they're done. And then they want either what's next, or they want free time, or they want something, they want a reward for being done. Actually, the iPads, because there are so many extensions that you can do, and you can suggest to them, or sometimes they just figure it out on their own. There's so many extensions that can be done that they are actively doing more. So you can always ask, what else can you do? I have kids that, say things all the time, like they'll say, oh, I love Evernote, which is a note-taking device. My students have never said they love note-taking, but I have a couple kids that have said, oh, I love Evernote. Oh, I love Dragonbox, which is a algebra application where they use pictures to create equations, and it gets more and more and more advanced. It's fun having them in there, and when we're doing labs or activities, there's always a student or two that wants to take pictures with their iPad to document it, and so it is really fun having them in. It keeps it, it keeps the energy high, and it keeps what we're doing new. And so, yeah, I think that the fun level, the student enjoyment level in class has definitely gone up.
Well, it's enhanced it deeply because we've been able to do certain things that we wouldn't usually be able to do in the classroom. For example, we're making a physics video in science class, and using certain apps such as green screen, we can project ourselves as if we were on Jupiter, or as if we were on a mountain or in the ocean. It opens you up to many different opportunities. And also in algebra, we have an online textbook, and it makes it a lot easier because it checks your answers when you do the questions. It's easier for you to review, and plus if you don't know a word, it gives you the definition immediately, and you don't have to go to a dictionary to search it up. So it really makes it easier to study.